Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to begin the funeral service. We ask for those that have a cell phone or pager if you could turn it to the silent mode. Officiating is Rabbi Leonard Matenki.
My task this afternoon is sad but brief. To help a saddened community and a grieving community to begin to say goodbye to an exceptional woman, a wife, mother, grandmother, sister, daughter, aunt, and a good friend, Serene Nathan, Sarah Malka Bat Tzvi Aryeh of blessed memory. Serene was, as her name, a source of great calm and peace to all who knew her. She was a teacher who was loved by her students at Akiba, a woman who later in life returned to school for a degree in social work and was not only respected by her clients and colleagues at the Ark, but cherished for the sense of quiet and safety that she shared. And she was a wife and a mother who worked, as do all Neshei Chayil, to support her beloved husband, Davy, and to love and support her children in all their endeavors. But she was also, as were her Hebrew names of Sarah and Malka, both the matriarch of their family, whose light was lit from one Shabbat to the next, who was a source of blessing, and whose life was an inspiration. And she was the Malka, whose unpretentious nobility was admired by all. Because Serene was a woman of both simplicity and depth, a woman who loved to learn and who taught so much, a mother who cherished her children and grandchildren, while being the Ezer Kenegdo, both the helpmate and the challenge to her husband, as they grew older together and cared for each other. She was Serene, and she was Sarah Malka. And then came these past few years when this bright and inquisitive woman needed more support and more assistance. And in response, her family rallied round, and her husband was there for her day and night until this past Friday night, when her neshama returned to God on the day that God ordained as the day of rest, and the day that the Arizal wrote was a moment when one's soul begins to ascend immediately, without travail, to the heavens. To all of her family, to Rebecca and absentia Yossi, Josh and Robin, Aaron, Tzvi and Malki, and to her sisters Charlotte and Vivian, no words can ever hope to assuage the pain of this moment. And yet know that when you live lives informed by hers, by her serenity, by her values and her qualities, her life that was limited by time is transformed into an eternal legacy. May the memory of Sarah Malka Bat Tzvi Aryeh be for a blessing, and may she continue to watch over you, your families, and especially you, Davy, her beloved husband, as you all continue to look to her, her example and her life, for inspiration and direction. Bila hamavet lanetzach u'mocha Hashem Elokim dimame al kol panim. We will now hear words of eulogy and remembrance from her children and grandchildren, from Rebecca, Josh, Aaron, Tzvi, and her grandchildren Yitzi and Rachel.
Mom, we have so much in our lives together. Today, I will touch upon a few. I remember a fun childhood, rich with family, as we shared so much of our experiences with your mother, our Bubby, and great aunts and uncles. From the beginning, you cultivated in us a sense of family and the importance of connection and loyalty to one's family. How you took care of Bubby, Psyche, of Remmel, Winnie, and Sal for years, made up of days and hours of care, time together, doctor's appointments and shopping and much more. You were so dedicated to them. Growing up on the South Side, I remember your attention to giving us the broadest of education and culture and the ability to know and befriend so many kinds of people. You and Helen took us kids regularly to the Goodman Theater and other venues of art and culture. Though I'm your only daughter, your style and good taste in putting yourself together wasn't something I inherited, but you were so good at it. And don't worry, Yussie's already trying for many years. Mommy, you visited consistently and regularly in Israel. You attended every single simcha of your grandchildren until you were no longer able to make the trip. Since 1985, you did not miss your visits. You bought and brought clothes for each grandchild, and in addition to our regular phone conversations before an upcoming trip, you would go over with me each child what they needed and what sizes they wore. And almost without fail, each item of clothing fit and was in good taste, to the extent that my friend Suzanne, my neighbor, who you became close with, whispered once to me, "Can you ask your mother to buy some clothes for my kids when she comes next?" And you did it. As a teacher, you had many fans. People come up to us, even as late as last week when we met Rabbi Zizek, the chaplain at the hospital, who told us you were his first grade teacher. Your dear friend Phyllis called to tell us that when you went out on your Tuesday dates, without fail, every time you met someone you knew, but you never met anyone who knew Phyllis. You chose to go back to school to earn a master's degree, and you worked at the Ark, where you were loved and respected and helped so many people. Your ability to connect with people began and ended with your children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. Our friends also loved you and enjoyed coming to the house. The years Yossi and I spent living near you here in Chicago were wonderful. We spent so much time together. We planned our Shabbat meals together, dividing the labor of shopping and cooking, and enjoyed Shabbos after Shabbos together. When Yitzi, your first grandchild, was born, you did everything to help me. He was central to you, and you to him. We spoke of Aliyah, an ideal you raised me to believe in. As difficult as it was to think of being across the ocean from one another, you supported us and even spoke of you guys moving close to us. The physical distance was there, but you and we did everything to successfully bridge that gap. We spoke, we shared, and we traveled in both directions. You came to help me after each birth. We had a standing date to go to the consulate in East Jerusalem to get the new infant all the American documentation. As the years went on, and pressures were immense upon you that could have prevented you from coming, you never abandoned us. You kept coming. Your actions showed us what you believed in. Family is most important. You fostered and nurtured relationships with your every grandchild. I loved as you shared your nachat about Tzvi and Malki's children, and as you bragged about Avi, who made you so happy. Each and every one of our children felt so close to you and was involved with you always, sharing with you, talking to you regularly, and especially holding on to anything they could in these last months. Mommy, you are part of each of our lives in real and meaningful ways. You worked hard because it was a given to you that this was the way. That is why your two oldest grandchildren, Yitzi and Rachi, left their families, little children, and work behind just to see you in your last moments. Everyone wanted to come. Chaim, Tamar, Nady, and Ayala. You made Israeli and IDF, Israel Defense Forces, history, Mom. In your consistent and constant Bubby style, you planned one of your many trips specifically to enable you to attend Yitzi's concluding ceremony in the elite Duvdevan unit. The Army gave us a date. You booked your flight. As your arrival date neared, the IDF split the event into two. One was the actual arrival of the soldiers after a 50-kilometer journey with all kinds of heavy equipment on their backs in the desert heat and dust. That was to be held on the original date of your landing, but open to only the Army. And the formal tekes, the ceremony, was postponed to a number of weeks later, open to the parents and grandparents. What were we to do? We couldn't change your flight, but we also couldn't have you come in and not participate. Yitzi, who can pull off most anything, got you and me special permission to be the only civilians allowed to attend as the soldiers concluded their Masa. Thanks to you, Mom, we got chaperoned in an Army Jeep up the sand dunes of Mishor Adumim to see the heroes arrive. We were the only two people in civilian clothes. You saw the officers pin on Yitzi his new rank, and you were in a place of joy and pride. I believe that you, Serene Nathan, went down in the annals of IDF as making history and the most decorated bubby. I thank God for so much, for our 59 years together, for enabling us to make it on time, to see and speak with you, Mommy, for the smooth flights and the gift of being able to say goodbye. After God, immediately after God, in the closest second that there could ever be, I am infinitely grateful to my righteous brother and sister-in-law, Josh and Robin, for caring for my parents, incessantly taking care of their every need with no hesitation. To my brother Aaron, who was in the hospital so many hours, and to my brother Tzvi for being with our father, especially over Shabbos. To our dear aunts Charlotte and Vivian, who ventured to Chicago in this weather, and our cousin Ari, who invested so much to be here. To the tireless staff at Evanston Hospital, to the Chabad Rabbi Wolf and the Refuah Chesed of Chicago, and Rabbi Falk, and to our cousins and friends, especially my cousin Julie, who made sure I had a visitor and food anytime I needed. Mommy, our last moments together singing Kabbalat Shabbat and Zmirot are a lasting gift you gave me. We are told that since the Zmira Tzur Mishalo models the content of benching, that should be our last song before we sing Shir Amalos and bench. As we were getting to the last stanza, and I saw you take your last breath, you said your last Birkat HaMazon with Tzur Mishalo in Olam Hazeh, and you're continuing your Birkat HaMazon in Olam Haba. Please watch over us. Keep the family together. Please mochel me for anything I did not do right by you, and if I hurt you in any way, I love you. Tehei nishmatech tzura b'tzror hachayim.
Don't be misled by the brevity. I got a lot on my mind. My mom's name's Serene. In 57 years, I have never met anyone else named Serene. I've met Serenas. I think I met a Serendipity once, Serenity, but I never met another Serene. My mother was literally one of a kind. The thing that I'll remember most about my mom is the unconditional love that she gave for the kids, the grandkids, and the great-grandkids. And I'd like to share a little anecdote that I hope will illustrate her unconditional love and the way she went about caring for her kids and grandkids and great-grandkids. When I was in 6th grade, give or take, my mom got me a microscope for Hanukkah. I did not like that microscope. It was educational. Presents are supposed to be fun. But it was my mom's gift, so I pretended to like it. I didn't want to hurt her feelings. So I played with the microscope, or looked at them, or whatever the heck you do with a microscope. And it came with a series of slides of the various human organs, the heart, the kidney, only organs I could think of. And one of them broke, cracked. And when my mom saw that one of the slides was cracked, she started to cry. And I said, Mom, I'm not an expert. but it's not a real heart. It's a slide. And for 70 cents or so, we can replace it. And she said, you don't understand. I wanted everything to be perfect for you. And that's what she wanted for all of us. She wanted things to be perfect. My mom chose to live her life in an orthodox way. It was important to her. But she didn't do it just by the book. She lived with love and compassion as well. And when she was working in the Ark as a social worker, and when clients would come to her, she wouldn't ask, if they daven mincha or if they put on tefillin that morning. If they needed help, they got help from Serene Nathan, equally across the board. She especially loved Shabbos. Shabbos was the only time in the week that the family was together. We didn't have regular family dinners during the week, but on Shabbos we did. And that was a really special time for her. I think her most favorite time of Shabbos was Shabbos afternoons when she played Scrabble with Phyllis Fingerhut, who's not here, but I know she sends her love and well wishes. But that was for literally hours at a time on Shabbos. They would play Scrabble at a tournament level, but I think more important, that was the time where my mom could open up and relate in ways that she couldn't to other people, and she cherished those times. A few other things about my mom. You did not want to play Jeopardy with this lady when she was in her prime. I would watch with her. I would get the sports questions. She would get everything else. She loved watching the Bulls up until recently. Sometimes dementia is a blessing. But it was really cute when she would refer to the players like they were her personal friends. Like, did you see Derek last night? Wasn't he good? What about Joakim? He didn't look like he felt very well last night. At the end of her life, we brought her to the hospital a week ago Thursday with a problem with her heart, and things went south quickly. And last Saturday night, a week ago, we decided to go into hospice mode. And she was taken off the IV. She was no food, no sustenance of any form other than just medication to keep her comfortable. And again, I'm not a doctor, but didn't think that someone 85 years old with a bad heart would last very long under those conditions. But she lasted a week. And I knew she wanted to hang on long enough to see Rebecca, to see Aaron, to see Tzvi, to see Rachi and Yitzi and Charlotte and Vivian and Ari. And that made sense to hold on for that. But she held on 3 or 4 days beyond that. And I'd like to think that it's because she wanted to experience one more Shabbos with Rebecca, one more candle lighting, and one more chance to sing Zmiros with Rebecca. So thank you for being there with her at that moment, at her last breath, while holding her hand and singing Zmiros. Finally, I want to say something to my father. You're one of 7 siblings, and you're the sole survivor of that crew, and Mom is gone, but I want you to know you're not alone. We're going to make sure you know that you're not alone, whether you like it or not. It's my understanding that the Shiva starts tonight. The Nathans are a competitive group, so extra bonus points to anybody who shows up during the Super Bowl. Lastly, you heard from my sister, who's a Talmudic scholar. You're going to be hearing from other Talmudic scholars. I am not one, but I would like to quote my Rebbe, Rabbi Shabtai Zissel ben Avraham, who said, death is not the end. Mom is still watching over us, over all of us, so act accordingly. And Thank you for being here. I'll see you soon, ma'am.
The concept of matrilineal descent in Jewish law informs us that all roads lead to the mother. Religion of the mother will indicate and dictate the God we will worship. My mother was good, godly, and grander than the Grand Canyon, and I did worship her. When I was younger and we were closer than close, and in later years when I was visibly truant or altogether absent. Before last week, I had not seen my family in many, many years. While I was overwhelmed by the enormity of the experience, it was memorable. I would like to take the time to thank my sister, who on more than a few occasions would leave her family to be with ours, sleeping on a cot beside my mom, never leaving the hospital, and my father, who stayed with my mother through the rough and tumble but meaningful years, until the meaningful end. Everything I know about life I learned from my parents. My father taught me to examine and analyze every single situation. My mother bestowed on me an appreciation for literature, classical music, respect for senior citizens, humanity, and the importance of community and giving back to the community. She was a true heroine, and a heroine never gives up on her people. I did not often become an expert on using the L word with my mother. I went to Mosheva for 7 years. Every night before camp started, around 11:30 p.m. or midnight, Mom would be sitting on the edge of my bed with a black Sharpie, writing my name on every single tag and every single label of all my clothes and luggage. When you multiply 7 years with every single tag and every single label, that adds up to a lot of love. Thank you, Mom, for 54 years of love, for being my personal heroine and never giving up on me.
In a sense, it's hard to talk about my mother because she was very humble and quiet and not one to blow her own horn. She really exemplified Kol Kvuda Bas Melech Penima. And if it was up to her, the truth is we really wouldn't be here. She had wanted a gravesite ceremony, and that was just the way she was. She was quiet, she was modest, but we wouldn't have it. The Mishnah in Avos says, Al Shlosha Devarim Ha'olam Omed, Al HaTorah, Al Avodah, Al Gemilas Chasadim. The world stands and is sustained on 3 things: Torah learning, Avodah, which can also mean Tefillah, and Gemilas Chasadim, acts of kindness and tzedakah. My mother was a woman of high intellect. This was a lady, as Josh mentioned, who regularly scored in the upper 400s in Scrabble. Just ask Mrs. Fingerhut, her longtime nemesis and opponent, if you don't believe me. And in her prime, she consistently came up with the questions well before even the top Jeopardy contestants, and could probably even give Art Fleming and Alex Trebek a run for their money. But her main intellectual firepower was reserved for Torah, the many shiurim in the community and at the shul that she attended. Included in Torah was her sincere desire to always do things according to halacha. Many times throughout the year, she would call me with halachic questions, and I, being the good son, would always oblige by giving her Rabbi Matenki or Rabbi First's phone number, Mami was also devoted to Avodas HaTfilah. My mother was a consistent and familiar face at the Shabbos Shachris Minyan by Rabbi Metenki at Kins. And of course, Gemilas Chasadim. Among my mother's other acts of chesed, her work on behalf of the Ark for so many years is well known. And Orchim, guests, were commonplace at our Shabbos table, with many repeat customers returning from Mami's famous broccoli souffle and spinach quiche. We read recently in Parsha Shmos that Paro commanded the mialdos, the midwives, the Jewish midwives, to kill the Jewish baby boys. And the pasuk says, "Vayihi ki yoru ha-mialdos eso Elokim vayas lahem batim," that because the midwives feared Hashem and disobeyed Paro, they were rewarded. Although they had just performed a tremendous act of Hatzalas Nefashis, the Torah praises them specifically for their Yiras Shamayim. The Torah is telling us that it wasn't their natural maternal rachmanis for the babies that motivated them. Their sole cheshbon, their only consideration in doing this act of supreme Mesiras Nefesh, was their Yiras Elokim. Without that Yiras Shamayim, they could have easily rationalized and found heterim to obey Pharaoh. My mother grew up in America when Yiddishkeit was relatively weak and assimilation was rampant. Unfortunately, many felt the pressure to leave their religion behind in order to succeed and flourish in the melting pot that was America. Many succumbed to the difficult test of the influence of the outside culture. But like the mialdos, like the midwives, Mami didn't rationalize. Mami didn't opt for an easier path. Like the mialdos, Mami had one cheshbon, one consideration on her mind. What do I need to do to ensure the continuity of Yiddishkeit in my family? She, along with Daddy, saw to it that our home would be a source of Jewish chinuch and Yiddish values, of midos tovos and maisim tovim. She led by example in her capacity as a teacher of Limudei Kodesh, as a social worker doing chesed work for the community at the Ark, and in the realm of midos tovos with her humility and eilkeit and ehrlichkeit. The pasuk goes on to tell us that the mialdos disobeyed the Melech Mitzrayim, vatichayena hayeladim. Chazal explained that not only did they not kill the babies, but vatichayena hayeladim, they went above and beyond in their Mesiras Nefesh and actively cared for them, nurturing them, feeding them, providing for them in every possible way. From the outset, Mami understood that for her children to thrive as Jews and not just survive, it would be necessary to send us to the finest day schools where each of us would receive a quality, Torah true education. And in the material realm, she was of course a devoted mother, wife, and Babi to her entire family. Vatichayena Yeladim, Mami gave chiyas to her children, bein begashmius ubein beruchnius, not compromising on either. The Torah then tells us that the reward for the mialdos was vayas lahem batim. Hashem made for them houses. And Chazal explained that we're not talking about brick and mortar buildings, but rather batim implies mishpachos chashuvos, bate kahuna, bate levia, and bate malchus. And Meforshim explained that the lashon bayis in the pasuk, vayas lahem batim, implies permanence, something that has a hemshech, something lasting. Mami has to her credit, along with Daddy, the building of a magnificent edifice of batim that have blossomed into beautiful mishpachos that continue her legacy of midos tovos, maisim tovim, and Jewish values. Although my sister already mentioned, I think it bears repeating that I too want to express my sincere gratitude to my brother and sister-in-law Josh and Robin, who have been so incredibly dedicated to my mother in these last difficult years. The kibbud avayim that they performed with such devotion and Mesiras Nefesh was simply above and beyond. From taking her to the doctor and overseeing her care to shopping and going out to eat, and just in general seeing to it that all her needs were met in the most dignified way. It was a great relief to me knowing that Daddy had such loving and dedicated children at his side taking care of Mami. Finally, Mami, I want to ask your mechila if I was not mechabed you properly, especially in light of the fact that I lived out of town and was not able to properly fulfill the kibbud aim that you so deserved. And also want to ask you, mechila, if I exercised any bad judgment in these last few days. And I just want to ask mechila, and may you be meilitz yosher for the entire mishpach.
We run a lot in the Kowalski family. I try to run every Motzei Shabbos. So last Motzei Shabbos I was in Jerusalem. I went running with my running friend. I got home and I heard the news, and basically the whole Sunday, that was the thing we did was to prepare to come here. And ironically enough, today I went running with my sister on the lake. Gave me a lot of time to think about what to say. 35 years. She was my bubby. She was my savta. Just a lot of memories erupted in the past week. One of the memories that came to us every year, we used to look forward as kids for our bubby to come visit us, as my mom mentioned. And every year she came, and each one of the kids had a day to be with their bubby. This is in the early 90s, I think. And the 167 was still running on Tirat Bat Sheva. We finished the day. It was getting dark, and it was raining, I think. And the bus, we saw the bus from afar. And Bubby, boy, did she wasn't young, and she gave it a run, and we made the bus. And that's the first memory that came to me. And I had a minhag, calling my bubby every Friday. I think the minhag started when she called me. I remember in high school, especially when not too many people spoke English, and there was a payphone in Kiryat Arba, and people would make fun of me, and I think they were jealous that my bubby and I had such a close and bonding relationship. And I think it was 3-4 weeks ago, I called my bubby. Zedi answered, and he gave the phone to Bubby. And Bubby asked, "When are you coming?" And I told her we're coming on the 27th of February. And this is what Josh didn't know. I mean, it just sounded like, and when she hung up the phone, it was like it was too far. Like she tried to hold on. I know that she wanted to, I mean, ironically, the last time I was in the hospital was 11 months ago. My wife gave birth to our first kid, Daniela. I know that Bubby really wanted to meet her. I'm sure Daniela, as a baby, I'm sure she didn't know, but it was the same thing, and Bubby just tried to fight it, and I guess that we booked it a little bit too late. Last time in the hospital we went 2, we came out 3. This time we left 1 short. Just want to thank you, Bubby, for all the great years we spent together, all the summers that we used to come here. And I want to say I'm sorry if I didn't respect you enough. And you'll be missed. All my siblings, not all of them could have made it here. I just want to represent, on behalf of them, we love you. I'm sure you're in a greater place. You're Militz Yosha. Hashem Natan, Hashem Lakach, Yishem, Hashem Mevorach.
As everyone said here, your Bubby, 4 of your children, spoke of how much of an amazing mother and person you were. And I think it's very obvious to see 4 amazing children, each so different. And even though each one of your children are so different, you loved everyone and respected and just accepted each one of your children the way they were. Like I said, you were an amazing person, but to me you were a bubby. And like many parents, when they become bubbies, they say, "Oh, it's so much nicer to be a bubby than a mother. You don't have to worry about a lot of things." So it's also so nice to be a grandchild, especially to you, Bubby. I know it should be obvious that a grandparent should want to spend time and care for their grandchildren. Unfortunately, it's not always so obvious. But to you, Bubby, it was so, so obvious. I was speaking with Charlotte about the fact that you didn't always say the words, "I love you," but I really felt it, even without you saying it. As said before, you cared so much about us, me and my siblings. Not only did you come once a year to Israel, at least, you also flew us in every other summer. And just like Gitzi said, we have such good memories with you, Bubby. I remember you came to Israel once a year. You'd bring, like my mom said, all the clothes and toys, and it was a highlight. We would all sit in the living room. You would want to relax a little, but we opened up your duffel bags and took everything out. You're in charge of all of our clothes for, I think, at least until I was 16. I never went shopping in Israel until age 16 about. And every time you'd come, the next day you'd say, so did your friends give you compliments about the new clothes? And it was such good times we spent. I remember sitting at the kitchen table in Israel, and you were the first one I ever saw warm up a toast, put butter on it, because I didn't see that from my parents. And we had good hot toast and butter together and coffee. I think more than a bubby, you were really a friend to me. You always asked about me, my children, my husband, and I really felt how much you care. I'm so happy I was able to come see you. Your last moments, unfortunately, I couldn't hear you talk, but I knew you were hearing me. So thank you for holding on until we got here. And like Yitzi said, on behalf of all my siblings, we wanted to thank you for everything you did for us. It was a lot, and we'll miss you, and I love you.
When the children speak, they speak as for their mother. I don't have that opportunity. I have an opportunity that may even be just as great, not greater. I speak as her husband. We were married to each other for over 50 years, 53, 54 years. And it was our only marriage. So I'm going to speak as a husband, a bereaved. Adam Arishon was named from the ground he was created from, Adamah. His wife too, the mother of all children, had her name related to that. Avraham had a couplet. Avram changed to Avraham. His wife Sarai had her name modified, changed her name to Sarah. And they were known by the latter. When it came to Yaakov, his name was modified. But he kept both names, the modification one and the one that was modified. Yaakov wrestled, and he was given that name. When we come to Serene, and the Rabbi, Zohar Zayin Gesundten Stark, he created I saw the end of the tunnel. I wanted to speak as shortly as possible, and thanks to you, I think I may succeed. The Rabbi mentioned the name of Serene. The name of Serene is a couplet like Avram, Avraham, and Yaakov, Her name in Hebrew is Sora Malka. It was not modified. It was not changed. It was not added to. From birth on, she was given a couplet, Sora Malka. And it is similar to the other couplets that I mentioned of the Avos, the Imaos, and it was different. It was the same in the sense that she had two names. They had two names too. But with her, Serene's name was given to her at the same time. Both names, factor one, unusual. Factor two is that both names meant the same. Sora Malka. Sora means Malka. The derivation of Malka is also Sora. Sora is a princess. Malka is a queen. Why the emphasis? They mean the same thing fundamentally. So we're taught in our religious literature, the repetition of a person's name stimulates endearment. Moses at the burning bush, when God said to him, Moshe, Moshe, repeating the same name. It was endearment. At the Akedah, when the father was about to do something very unusual, extraordinary, and the angel said, Abraham, Abraham. No. The word, the name is repeated. She was a bas. Her uncles were all Kohanim. And she let me know about it too when we were going together and engaged. She led the life of what her name depicts. She was a person of royalty. She was a member of a Kohanish family, priestly, and she conducted herself as such. And she carried herself as such. And she walked and talked as such. She had a little bit of an ego, rightly so. The Kohanim are known for that. And I learned my lesson. I learned very quickly. That is what I wanted to say. I've said it. I thank everybody for being here. Forgive me, Serene, my darling. And thank you to my family, my relatives, those who are here. I recognize many of you. And thank you, Rabbi.
מזמור לדוד, אדוני רואי לא אחסר, בינו דשא ירביצני, על מי מנוחות ינהלני. נפשי ישובב, ינחני במעגלי צדק למען שמו. גם כי אלך בגיא צל מוות, לא ירא כי אתה עמדי. שבטך ומשענתך, המה ינחמוני. תערוך לפני שולחן נגד צוררי. דשנת ושמן ראשי כוסי רוויה. אך טוב וחסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי, ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים. Please rise for the Kilmoli. אל מלא רחמים שוכן במרומים, המצא מנוחה נכונה לכנפי השכינה, במעלות קדושים וטהורים, כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים, את נשמת שרה מלכה בת רב צבי הרש הכהן, שהלכה לעולמה. בעבור שאנו מתפללים בעד הזכרת נשמתה, בגן עדן תהא מנוחתה. לכהן בעל רחמים, יסתיריה בסתר כנפיו לעולמים, ויצרור בצרור חיים את נשמתה. אדוני הוא נחלתה, ותנוח בשלום על משכבה, ונאמר אמן. Please be seated.